Good evening and welcome to tonight's community meeting for the Marble Complex. My name is Kevin Tidwell. I'm the Public Information Officer for California Interagency Incident Management Team 9. And I want to thank the REC for allowing us to have our meeting here tonight. They've been very helpful and gracious. A couple of housekeeping items. There are restrooms back outside. There's water out in the lobby for you guys. I just want to welcome you to this meeting. This meeting is for you, the community. We want to partner with you. We're here to not only suppress these fires, but also give you timely and accurate information, give you a good briefing tonight. We have a lot of different representatives from a lot of different disciplines, not only from the incident management team, but the U.S. Forest Service, your local district, CAL FIRE, the Siskiyou unit, California Highway Patrol, multiple fire department agencies, representatives from tribes, and congressmen. So you have a lot of resources here at your disposal, and tonight's about getting you the information that you need. I know there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of questions that you may have, and so that's why we're here tonight. So thank you for being here. I'm going to give just a quick update on the situation in a second. A few housekeeping rules. If you could silence your cell phones, keep your side conversations to a minimum. The way this meeting will work is I will introduce multiple people of our panel that are going to give you a briefing, like I said, about the Marble Complex, which includes the Jacket Fire and the Summit Fire. At the end of our presentation, we'll have a question and answer period where we'll have an opportunity for you to ask questions. After that question and answer period, we'll end the meeting, but we will have our representatives hanging out after so that you can ask some one-on-one questions directly to the person or agency that you're interested in. We're also live streaming this event on Facebook as well as other platforms, so welcome to those people that are online. And you can enter your questions in the comment section and we will get to those as well. So, without further ado, just the current situation of the Marble Complex. The Marble Complex is currently a total of 375 acres, 2% contained, and 383 personnel are currently assigned to the complex incident itself. Breaking it down into the two fires, the Summit Fire, which is the larger of the two, is currently 325 acres and 0% contained, and the Jacket Fire is 50 acres and 2% contained. So that's our situational update as of just a few minutes ago. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce the Forest Supervisor for the Klamath National Forest, Chris Christopherson.
Good evening. So I'm Chris Christopherson. I've been here about a year as your Forest Supervisor on the Klamath. And to say that I'm having flashbacks of the Shelley Fire is not to overstate the situation. And so I've got a couple numbers that I want to share with you that speak to what we're managing here and dealing with as a community in Siskiyou County. And so to date, Siskiyou County has had darn near 7,000 lightning strikes. So 6,973 lightning strikes here in Siskiyou County. 7,500 of those have landed on your national forest, the Klamath National Forest. On Monday, we got a report of a fire right next to the Shelley Fire. And we immediately dispatched smoke jumpers. They were over the scene in about 10 minutes. We also called for air tankers rapidly to begin working that incident. Again, having flashbacks of the Shelley Fire and how fires can get up and move in ways we don't want them. Since then, we have ordered an incident management team, Incident Management Team 9. We called them on Thursday because our ability to manage the 17 emerging incidents that we had was quickly reaching our capacity as a forest. And so we called in assistance. We have been aggressively attacking this fire, and I'm focusing on the Summit Fire, but we've been aggressively attacking, putting that to bed, going direct where we can because of the threat that fire poses to the communities here in the valley, the threat that it poses to commercial timber ground, and the threat that it poses to the remaining green stands up in that area of the wilderness that haven't burned yet. So that is why we're putting that to bed as quickly as we can, keeping it as small as we can. If this were later in the year, we might be having a different conversation. But because it's July 1 when this started, and there is a lot of fire season left, and the alignment of this fire potentially coming down into the valley, that's why we're going after it and asking firefighters to assess their risk and their ability to put line on this as directly as they can. And so I thank you for showing up tonight. I thank you for supporting the team, the firefighters, and I'm going to give a call out to CAL FIRE for helping us in those initial days of our management and in the continued support we have with CAL FIRE. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to our facilitator.
Thank you. Before I introduce the next speaker, there is a QR code up on the screen that you'll see throughout the night. If you have a smartphone, you can point the camera at that, and that will take you to a link tree that has all the different websites with all the different information, from incident information to different Facebook pages that we're updating and all that. So feel free to open that up to get you to the right place for more fire information. Next is going to be our operational update of the current situation from Operations Section Chief Dan Gussie of Team 9.
Thank you, Kevin. Hi, folks. My name is Dan Gussie. Like Kevin said, I'm the Ops Section Chief for Team 9. I have been doing I've been in the Forest Service for 23 years, which means I've spent a lot of time in the Klamath on fires, just like a lot of people around here. And I understand this community super fire-wise. I've worked with a lot of you on fires in the area, being around your houses, understand that you guys know what you're talking about and what we're looking at. We're going to go through a little fire history. We're going to show you what's going on and kind of explain why we're having difficulties and where we're trying to go after the fire as much as we can. I don't need to explain to you what a 10-year-old fire scar looks like or what snags are or any of that kind of stuff, because you guys know this stuff. So this will go pretty quick and pretty fun. So we have on the left is the Jacket Fire, and on the right is the Summit Fire. The Jacket Fire, things are going really well on that. What's our next slide, Kev? Is it the Jacket? Perfect. So on the Jacket Fire, things went really well. The forests themselves turned over a really great product to us. The day we received it from them, they had been able to get line all the way around the fire with help from CAL FIRE and the local unit. So that thing's right around 50 acres, really well contained. Next day, we were able to get hose in around that fire. So we're starting what we call the mop-up procedure, as you guys know what it is, and we're trying to secure that line. It's a little slower going than we'd like, just to the fuels, real heavy, decadent, thick fuel in the area, as well as snags and stuff. And so the guys are taking their time slowly trying to engage that and get it to a point where we can get away and reuse those resources on the Summit Fire. There was some retardant used on that fire, as you guys I'm sure saw. Most of it was in and around the fire. From what we're seeing, very little threat into the water source or anything like that. It was all up on the fire. Nothing made it down in the drainage. Obviously, that doesn't mean things won't change later on as wording comes, but really good job done by the aircraft that was initially on scene, keeping that within that fire footprint as well as the resources that went on. We're anticipating another 5 or 6 days of real good heavy work on there, and then we'll slowly start trickling resources out. As we move on to the Summit Fire, so I just wanted to put the fire history up there so you guys can see. I know you guys know what fire scars look like, but that's the 2014 Frying Pan Fire, and this thing's sitting right in the middle of it. The guys are dealing with brush down in the drainages that's about 10 to 15 feet tall, snags anywhere from 100 to 200 feet tall, some on the ground, and just thick. Some of the pictures the guys have showed us that are out in the area, it's a tree every 15, 20 feet. That's sitting at 10 to 12 years old of dead. So it's ready to come down. And where it has fallen down, they're trying to walk over that stuff and put line in. So whether it's avoiding the snags for safety or just trying to cut through that stuff, it's slow going. What we have luckily been able to do, Kevin, if we can go in on the zoom in. What we have been able to do is start working around the left flank or the top of the map there. The fire made its good push that you guys all saw with the smoke about 2 days ago and made it up to Pacific Crest Trail. It did slop a little bit over the ridge line. Those are the spot fires that you see out there up front. We had crews immediately on that stuff, working with aircraft. We were able to secure all those. The slop over the Pacific Crest Trail, there by the Ridge LZ, that was taken care of yesterday as well. Today we got another hot shot crew in. We had 4 shot crews working down that left flank. So from where that Ridge LZ is down that ridge line, they made about 1/3 of a mile to about a 1/2 a mile today. We're anticipating 2 to 3 days for them to get down in the bottom We've already established an anchor point on that heel. That's where we initially inserted the crews in. So our big concern with that left flank, kind of pushing up towards Cold Springs and that kind of stuff, it's looking really well. The reason why they were able to get in on that side fairly quickly, that ridge line, for some reason, whether it's snow load or whatever, most of those trees had come down. And so that's a little safer area. They're going what we call parallel and direct as much as possible, so they may be 100 feet off the line or right up on the line. But it's a lot more viable and a lot safer for them to go in on that area. What we are going to start looking at in the next couple days is twofold. So on the lower flank, the right flank there below you, or below on the bottom of the map, that area, as you can tell from the fire scar, was hit pretty bad. We're going to try to find a direct route as much as possible where it's safe for the firefighters to get in and go along that right flank coming up from the heel. But the other thing we're going to do is take at least 1 or 2 hotshot crews. And the ridgeline above the Pacific Crest Trail is a much more viable option than the Pacific Crest Trail. If you guys have been out there, it's kind of on the middle of the hill. There's a lot of natural barriers along there, very little green stringers of timber, just some brush. And we're going to start prepping that towards Maneaton Lake. Just as a contingency line, I guess is the way to put it. It's not really intended for the fire to go there, but we understand your concern. I've talked with a lot of locals of here, and I understand what happened with the Shelley last year. So it's, a little bit of forethought and a little bit of us getting out in front of this while we can is what we're doing. The reason why we don't have so many people in there, right? So I know it seems like we'd want to have 40 or 50 hotshot crews in on this. It's statistics, it's numbers. If you've been in that country, it's extremely steep and rocky. If we put a lot of people in that ground, that ups the amount of potential for injury, not just because you have a lot of people in that area, but they're going to kick loose rocks. Trees are going to get kicked loose. If they're all densely packed in that area, it's going to be very hard for them to move and get out of the way. So we're being thoughtful as putting as much horsepower, as much manpower, person power as we can in that area, but also trying to make sure that they're able to work around each other in that ground safely. What we're seeing in that increase in smoke and fire behavior, you guys are seeing a little bit of uptake as that stuff burning down towards Woolly Creek. As you get in the bottom of Woolly Creek, the brush gets a lot thicker. Obviously, the water flow is pretty good in there. And so some of that stuff has been able to catch fire as it slowly backs through. The fuels are still green-ish, but we are starting to make that change. As Supervisor Chris talked about, we're still early in the season, but we're starting to get that point. We are looking at lightning possibilities the next 2 days, and then hotter and drier. So we're trying to get around this and use that to our advantage still while we have this seasonality in our advantage, but being mindful of where it is. You're still going to see increased smoke production as that backs down into that next drainage. What we're seeing is that little drainage kind of where it's hung up in right now. The next one over before it gets into Woolly is a little more viable for the guys to go after. So we want to work slowly around the bottom of that fire, that heel, and let it kind of back down in the drainage where it's a little safer for the guys to go up in and after it and bring it up to the PCT. So that's kind of our overall plan for the next several days as we work after it. If you do look at the map, you may see other lines on those. Those are just planning. That's all that is using local knowledge, talking to local guys who have been around here, previous fires where they've been able to catch fire, and using fodder modeling. So we have plans in place, all that pre-planning, just to make sure that we're ahead of whatever may happen should the thunderstorms push the fire around like it did a couple days ago. With that, we'll turn it back over to Kevin.
All right, and next we have the Siskiyou County OES Director, Brian Shinoni.
Great, thank you. Good evening, my name is Brian Shinoni. I'm Director of Emergency Services for Siskiyou County, so local. Just some stats on where we're at with everything. So EVAC, we have the Summit Fire. We have 1 warning and 0 population affected, 2 orders, evacuation orders, 0 population affected. The Jacket has 3 warnings and 23 people affected with 1 order and 0 affected on that. So what we did with the Jacket Fire, we worked really closely with the community liaisons down in the Forks of Salmon area, and we were able to really chop up and cut those zones up. So one of the things that we learned last year was that these zones can be altered and moved around as needed. So we don't need to take these big swaths of zones and we heard you. Like, that was a concern last year, and we're not going to make that same mistake. So what we want to do is really use the tools that we have and use them for you. So as they are pushed and as we get recommendations from the teams, we'll look at those, and Sheriff and I will make those adjustments accordingly. So one of the things for you is the communityreadysisq.gov is where you're going to get your alerts. If you're not signed up, make sure you go sign up. And then Protect Genesis is where you're going to get your zones. So you can get that on your app. What I really like about that is just driving into those areas, those zones will pop up if you have your location services on your phone. So this zone will actually tell you what's going on with that. So for us as the county, Emergency Operations Center, that is what we do. We have reach back for all of the teams, all of support for the community, everything that isn't law enforcement and fire. EOC right now, Emergency Operations Center, is at a duty officer, so we always have somebody on call, taking those phone calls as needed. There are no additional, so we don't have any animals that are evacuated or anything like that, but everything is on standby, so we are ready. One of the things that we have worked really hard with is with the PCT hikers and trying to figure out where and how to get those folks around this section. Working with the PCT trail hikers and the Trail Angels. So really great organization working with those guys. And then lastly, we're really taking into account the VAR, so our values at risk. So we know that this is very concerning for across the community. I live in Etna. This is a huge concern for us as well. So what does it look like as it gets warmer or as these storms come? So this is where we work with the team every morning, work with the liaisons and figure out what works best. So we understand that, and one of the things that we can do is kind of push that back, is have your alerts and warnings set up. Know your zone and understand that if it does come to an evacuation order, that it is an order for a reason. So we're pushing that order out so you leave the area so fire personnel can go in. One of the things that we're really, like I said, one of the things we're really going to focus on is pushing those orders, and then also in those remote areas, we're pushing an IPAWS, which is Integrated Public Alert and Warning System. The FEMA system, we're going to push that out because you're going to get it whether you're signed up or not. It just never stops. It's just really annoying. But it's a great tool, so we can push it, and it's just going to go to radio, it's going to go to TV. If you have a smartwatch, it's going to go to that. So any of the folks in the backcountry, it is going to go to that as well, so weather radios. Really, pending questions at the end. I'm going to be around. If you have any questions for me, please do not hesitate to come and ask. So, thank you.
All right, and now from the Siskiyou County Board of Supervisors, Supervisor Ray Halp.
Thank you. Good evening. This isn't the Shelley fire, thank God. Don't want to repeat that again, but I will tell you that what Brian talked about with the being able to shrink and expand zones and make them flexible was a topic of at least 3 or 4 meetings that we had during this winter to fine-tune what went wrong or didn't go so right with the Shelley fire. So I'm pretty confident that the county's got that down a little better at this point. Also, the sheriff's not here, but the sheriff was a big part of most of those meetings, and he guarantees me that if you leave your home in an evacuation and you need to get back in, if you contact the sheriff's office, they will usher you in and out. So with that's my next message. There's a lot of fire season left, and I don't, this isn't so much with this fire, but things can turn around, but I don't anticipate them doing that. If you get a warning, please be ready. Don't wait to get ready when you get the order. By the time you get the order, it's too late. And a lot of times, even us who are used to fighting fire and being in firestorms get a little antsy. I did as well last year when I was evacuating. I spent my whole career fighting the adrenaline during that situation, but I forgot things when I left. Just a natural tendency. The last thing you want to do is get in a panic and go the wrong direction or something and get in trouble. So heed those warnings. I don't want any more of my constituents dying in this county. I've had enough of that already. in the last few years. It's a tragedy for those families. It's also a tragedy for all of us to know all those people that have passed on. With that, I'm confident the team really has a good handle on this fire. There's nothing keeping me up at night. Several people have called me, what about my house? What about my house? I said, well, we've got the Shelley fire from last year between a lot of the houses and this fire, which is comforting. And from what I see, there's plenty of resources on this fire, and including a fully staffed tanker base out in Montague that's supporting the fire. So with that, if you have any questions afterward, track me down.
All right, and now the Deputy District Ranger of the Salmon Scott River District, Danica Carlson.
Hi everyone, I'm Danica Carlson. I'm the Deputy District Ranger for the Salmon and Scott River Ranger District, and I'm an agency administrator trainee on this fire, or these fires. So first, I just want to thank you all for showing up to get this information firsthand and to take advantage of this opportunity to ask your questions and have these conversations. This is why we're here. We want you to get the right information in a timely manner, and we really just want to continue to share as much as possible. So, I just kind of want to start out, and I know this has been mentioned a lot already, but just really acknowledge the flashbacks, as Chris put it, that are happening to the Shelley fire last year, and kind of acknowledge it on a couple of different levels. And so, I grew up here in Scott Valley. I live up Kidder Creek. I was evacuated, grew up hiking in the wilderness here. And so really understand kind of that dual concern of, you're thinking about your house and your property, and that really matters. And that's paramount when we're looking to suppress these fires. But you're also looking up on the mountain and you're picturing that the last place you hiked that was still old growth, beautiful green timber, and wondering if you're ever going to see it like that again, right? And I just really want you all to know that we feel that too, like down to our core. And we're taking that into account with our objectives and our management actions and how we're responding to these fires. So that being said, like has also been mentioned already, this is not the Shelley fire. And so we have a lot of good things working in our favor. We're going to continue to hit it with everything that we have, just like we have from the very start. And we're going to just keep working toward the best possible outcome. We have Team 9 here. They've been great to work with. I just really want to acknowledge that. Really doing a nice job of integrating with the local knowledge that we have on our district staff. We have a lot of folks that grew up here, have worked here their entire careers, and they're having really great conversations, and that set them up to really hit the ground running with a plan that they've put together in a really short amount of time since they took this fire over. That's just been a pretty seamless transition. Didn't feel like a pause, didn't feel like things were slowing down. Things are just really moving in the direction that they should. I also want to kind of point out the jacket because we haven't been talking about that as much, but to have a fire start mid-slope, mid-canyon in Crapo Creek, and then catch it as quick as we did and get line around it. They've got hose lay around that fire. Just absolutely amazing work, and pretty proud of that effort. So we're still watching it with the winds that are coming. We're not getting complacent. We're keeping everything staffed and keeping an eye on what's going on. But that was a huge accomplishment. So a couple of other things just to mention is, along with the evacuation orders and warnings that are in effect that Brian talked about, we did push one forest closure order, and this is in relation to the Summit Fire. And what we decided to do for just ease of communication and consistency is we mirrored the forest closure order to the footprint of the county evacuation zones, which don't include any residences or anything. It's up in the wilderness. And so it's a large footprint, but that is an area that takes a long time to sweep, to move people out of if we need to do so. So we're always kind of taking that into account and looking at the trail access in to an area and how hard it's going to be to move through there and get people out if it becomes necessary. So I do want to point out that our wilderness ranger has found vehicles at Cliff, Campbell, and Kidder pretty much every day since we put the closure up, and he's having to spend a lot of time clearing these areas, and those are not the lakes you want to be at right now. It's just not a good idea. So there are a lot of other areas in the Marbles that are still open outside of this closure that are accessible, that are really nice day hikes to go to. So just try to help us out there if you can. One other thing that I'll just mention, and I know whenever we start setting up fire camp in Etna and we bring in all these people, the traffic gets kind of crazy in the valley, and we've got some resources going over on the Salmon River Road and things start feeling kind of congested. Just take that time on your morning commute to just slow down and be as patient as you can. But on our end, we're really always constantly stressing the need for our resources to drive safe and slow and be respectful. And so if you're having any problems with that, definitely just let us know, and we'll continue to emphasize that with everyone that we've got out here on the ground. So that is all I have, and I'll be around for questions afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now for some closing comments, I'd like to introduce the Incident Commander of California Interagency Incident Management Team 9, Clint Gould.
So good evening, everyone, and I want to thank you also for coming for this meeting. I will say I do feel like a local because I spent the first 30 years of my life just over the hill, as I'm a Happy Camp native. And so I've been enjoying the Marble Mountains and the Klamath National Forest for quite a long time. So this area holds some deep meaning to me and my family. Along with me, I've got two other incident commanders. So as we move along through this incident, you're watching the video feeds and Facebook posts, you're going to see the name and the faces of Jim Snow and Jeff Crandall. They are part of the team. They are with me. I mean, we are unified and one. From the time we got the call on July 3rd, team mobilized, we were here and got our good in briefing from the forest July 4th at 1800. And we assumed command of this fire yesterday evening at 1800. So today is our true first full shift on the incident. The work that was done down on the Jacket Fire, great catch by the Klamath National Forest and CAL FIRE and the resources that were all involved there. I know you're all fire savvy, as my ops chief stated, but there's always a little bit of confusion out there when folks are looking at our maps and you're looking at our post and you're not seeing containment raise. And it posts a lot of questions for folks. As you heard my ops chief say, we've got line completely around the Jacket Fire and hose lay around the Jacket Fire. We start increasing containment on our post when we feel the true threat is gone. So just because you're not seeing black or being told that containment's raising does not mean that work is not being done out there and that the effort to put these fires out is not taking place. The firefighters that we have up there, they're staying out there 24/7. They are not coming off the line at night. They're spiking out, so they are there to respond if something happens in the middle of the night, even though they may have completed their shift for the day. If there's a flare-up and they need to attack it, they're going after it. And like I say, they're here for you. Our team is here for you, and we are supporting the Klamath, and anything that we can do to make your guys' informational share that much more better, please reach out. We will field any questions. We'll answer those questions, and if we don't have it, we will find that answer for you. And with that, thank you.
Thank you, sir. So with those closing comments, that concludes our formal presentation of our speakers. And now I'd like to open it up for a question and answer period. The way this will work, I have a PIO that's out in the crowd and they have a microphone. And if you do have a question that would be beneficial for the group, I would ask that you'd raise your hand and we'll come to you. You can ask the question and then I'll direct that to the appropriate person to answer that question. If you have something that's more personal to your local area or you'd rather just ask a specific person, like I said in the beginning, a lot of our representatives are going to hang out afterwards. We have maps outside, inside the building. We'll bring the big maps back up on the LED screen. So you have that opportunity to ask those direct questions to the appropriate person. But we do have a few minutes for some questions. So if there's anyone that has any questions, please raise your hand. One right up here in the front. She's going to bring the microphone to you, and then that way everyone online can hear your question.
Okay, it sounds to me like you're treating it as a lightning fire. And I have to say that I did call the fire in on Saturday before the lightning started at about 8:30 at night. I called 911 and I reported a very strong fire smell lingering over Quartz Valley coming from the Marble Mountains. Just a thought to consider that it might not have been a lightning fire.
Anyone like to address it? Okay, understood. Thank you. Right here in the front.
Okay. I think it's probably pretty understandable by people living in Scott Valley that the Shelley fire started on almost exactly the same date, and it was right before 4th of July weekend. And then it took off with the winds. And coming down the Kidder Creek drainage, I understand on the Summit fire, the spotting has gone ahead of the fire a little bit. If it gets into the Shackleford Creek drainage, are you guys prepared for what's down there at the bottom of Shackleford Creek drainage?
We'll bring back up Operations Section Chief Dan Gussie to address that.
So the long and short answer is yes, and we'll go into detail. So luckily, I guess, and this is a weird thing to say, you had the Shelley fire last year. So a lot of that planning and prep work was already done, and the forest decided to leave a lot of that in place already. We've had a couple of our folks go out and work with CAL FIRE and look at a lot of that stuff that was put in already. Most of it needs a very minimal refreshing, and then we're working with the locals to look at what the Shackleford Canyon actually looks like as far as that trail system goes as well. It was also cleaned up very much during the Shelley fire. So, you know, barring any extreme fire behavior, yes, we're already very well set up, thankfully, from the work that was done to Shelley and the decision the forest made to not get rid of that stuff and rehab it, but to leave it in place to protect your community.
Okay, any other questions in the crowd or online? We have one right up here in the front.
Yeah. Mine is the concern of the wind blowing. If it started in the lakes were up there like that, which way is it on? Is it on the other side of the mountain or is it on this side of the mountain up there?
Just to clarify, you're asking where the location of the spot fires are?
Where are we at? Are we in the other side of the mountain?
Okay.
So to orientate you guys, we are on the other side of the mountain. The main fire spread is on the other side of the mountain. The big lake kind of there in the bottom is Cliff Lake. And then you have Summit and all that. So the spots went over the ridgeline. Those were quickly contained that kind of line up with Shackleford. But the main fire spread is still on that other side of the ridgeline. So it hasn't crossed any of that yet. And we're working to improve that ridgeline as well to keep the fire from coming. Correct, absolutely.
Okay, we have time for a few more if there are any. If not, we can have time to ask. We got one right in the middle.
You just used the term majority. Can you assure us that there is no active fire in the Shackleford drainage?
So we have some spot fires in where you see on the map up there, which isn't established in Shackleford yet. That's the closest fire to Shackleford drainage. Those have all been lined by the hotshot crews. They've been mopped up. As we talked about, and as Danica talked about, and our RSC Clint Gould, the amount of aircraft that we've had in the air, the amount of metal that's been in the air constantly over this fire, we've had that area looked at quite a few times. Nothing has been found. At nighttime, we utilize night flying aircraft that has infrared. All of that area has been scanned. All heat detective. That stuff is able to detect heat about the size of a chair. Nothing's been found in the area. We have packers and wilderness rangers hiking in and out of that area as they access the fire. So far everything is good. What you see on the map is the furthest fire spread in that area.
Right up here in the front again.
So how are all the teams accessing the Summit Fire? Is it by coming up Shackleford Creek and going from the Shackleford Creek trailhead up to Cliff Lake and above, or are they coming in on the PCT or what?
So all of our folks so far have come in via aircraft. The forest has done a really good job and got permission to allow us to treat this like a full suppression fire. We have all the tools in our toolbox, including bringing aircraft and bringing personnel in that way. If any of you hiked out there, it's 5 or 6 miles and it's Klamath. So it's a fun hike. So it would very much fatigue the guys. It'd be very hard to get all their gear in. So we're using a helicopter to get them in. We do have some of our resource advisors, like our wilderness forester and our pack stock, and a couple other people that have come in, both Kidder and Shackleford, to check those trail systems and to clear, like we've been talking about, Danica's been talking about. But for the most part, the firefighter resources to best manage their fatigue, get all the gear and resources they need in. We've been doing that with aircraft. Yes, ma'am. So if we go back to the map, just kind of north of the ridge line there, and I know it's kind of hard to see, but you'll see it says Ridge LZ. So we have Summit Lake where it says Boulder Dip, that's Gem and Jewel. So it's just on the ridge line. There's a very flat open spot, just solid rock and granite. That's where we use to access, and we've been putting the crews in and out.
All right, we have time for one more question, and then we'll break it up for one-on-ones if people would like to do that. Any last call right up front? Just wait just a second so I can get the microphone to you so we can get the online group involved. Green shirt.
You probably have more up-to-date information than we have as far as weather, any kind of future storms, lightning, wind. Do you see anything else coming in the future?
I really like you guys because you really like me. So tomorrow, starting early afternoon, we're looking at about a 30% chance of thunderstorms. Our incident meteorologist cannot say directly that it will be over the fire in the Marbles area, but it'll be within the forecasted area, which is fairly large in this area. And then again, the next day, we're looking at about a 20 to 25% chance. After that, we go into, I wouldn't call it abnormally seasonally warm, but warm for the season, drying and warming trend, where the fire will see upper 80s into the low 90s potentially at the lowest part of the fire, and humidities in the 20s. So we're doing our best to utilize what is actually very nice, clear weather in the Klamath. We can see the sky, which I have not seen a lot, to do the work we can now and trying to get ahead of that thunderstorm. Talking to local battalion chiefs and stuff, the thunderstorm that initially came through and started this fire, the next day they got the outflow winds, and that's really what increased the size. So we're trying to bolster as much as we can and prepare for that in case those do show up the next couple days.
All right, with that, I would like to thank you all again for attending tonight. I know it's been a busy holiday weekend, not only because of the 4th of July, but also because of these incidents. And we appreciate you reaching out to us, calling us for questions, and attending tonight. Again, we're here to support you. This QR code, this is the fire information line. You can give that number a call. An information officer will answer that phone, give you some answers to your questions, help you, direct you in any needs. And I just want to thank you again. We're here to partner with you. And so after we close here tonight, like I said, we have all these different representatives from all the different agencies that are willing to hang out, answer your questions. Like I said, we have maps all around. So again, thank you on behalf of Team 9 and the Klamath National Forest. Thank you for being here. Have a good rest of your evening. Thank you.